Gratitude morning, everyone. Happy you could join us for Dream Big Dreams. And today, it should be a real treat because this guest, a lot of you guys have been asking and asking, when is she coming back? When is she coming back? Well, today you got it. And I just want to say, like always, Dream Big Dreams is not always just about having a lot of things, but it's about living your purpose on purpose, enjoying life, giving service to the world, being happy, and like I said, having gratitude with a capital G. Now, my guest, she is a psychologist. She is a financial planner. She's a single mom, among other things. And her company actually collapsed during COVID. And for those of you who were here back in January, she gave a little bit of those details. In fact, for Dream Big Dreams, she was the very first guest on the episode saying that, yes, I'll go first, which always puts me in mind, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Well, anyways, prior to that, she had built a thriving psychological testing and practice building consultation company with over 13 locations across Florida. Yes, across the whole state of Florida. And after the initial impact of COVID, she actually pivoted to e-commerce and online courses and business building. All at the same time, entering early retirement. And she currently, as she explained to some of us earlier this year, she lives on the beach of Ocho Rios, Jamaica, beautiful place. And she enjoys a semi-retired lifestyle with low-risk investing and providing virtual consultation. But at the same time, she continues to grow her multiple passive income sources, and she enjoys the low cost of living on the island. And right now, she's fully developing her brand. Look, she's known as the wellness whisperer, and that's great. And so through her experience with mental health and finances, she knows just how interconnected that they are and how they make or they break a good work and life balance. And that's something we all need to have. Believe me, myself included. So now she's able to help others cultivate the life that they deserve and they desire. Everyone, let's listen as she lets the fire loose and welcome my guest, Dr-Candace Drummond. Dr. Drummond, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for that intro. Oh my goodness. As you read it, I'm like, is that me? Is he really?
Yes.
Oh, I did that too. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I remember that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Man. Yes. And like I said before, people have been asking about you. They said you were so real, you were so authentic, you were so transparent, the way you shared ups and downs with everyone. And well, there's been a lot of other people that have joined since that time. So for those who don't know, can you just give a little brief synopsis of what was going on pre-pandemic and during the pandemic earlier?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, pre-pandemic, my company, Avid Intellectual, was a psychological testing company. It provided testing for Department of Education, Department of Disability, so mostly government and schools, that sort of thing, which I at the time thought was totally recession proof, right? I mean, when does the government close? When do schools close? Like that never happens, right? And then it did, and so when the government shut down the majority of their services for 6 or more months, my company, virtually collapsed. At this point, we actually still maintain one office location in Florida, in Northern Florida, that is starting to kind of pick back up to what we used to see for one office location. So we're hoping that we'll continue to see that growth and be able to re-expand out from that spot. But for the most part, it just went from 13 locations down to 2. And so we had, I think it was an 87% drop in revenue in a period of about 3 months. And so it like you say, it was devastating. You know, my car got repossessed. I got evicted from my apartment, and the choice to move to Jamaica at the time was more of almost a move of desperation. I moved because, well, it was the only place I could really know I could afford to live at the time. And, you know, as brave as it might have been to a lot of folks and, you know, inspiring and whatnot, when I look back, it's the best choice I ever made. But at the time, like I said, it was just kind of like, okay, well, what do I do? What do I do? Scramble, scramble, scramble. And it's like, all right, let's just jump. And so best leap I ever made. So now, like I say, I live in Jamaica. I live about 10, 20 minutes from Ocho Rios, directly across from the ocean. I have 180-degree views of the ocean. So everywhere I look out my front door, there's the ocean. It's a beautiful place. The pace of life is so much simpler. It's so much easier. You know, my daughter has a much higher quality of education. You know, she's reading, she's 5. And, you know, so like I say, it's the best move, honestly, that I ever made. And I would actually encourage folks to look at living outside of the US, especially if you work digitally. You know, if you work online or you do something where you don't necessarily have to be tied to a location, you know, consider Mexico, Costa Rica, Jamaica. There's so many places around the world that have made this type of life much more attractive.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. And I know I pretty much probably know the answer, kind of, but how difficult or challenging or easy was it to bounce back?
It was very challenging. Honestly, you know, I feel like I spent a full year just kind of spinning my wheels. I attempted to pivot into more of the testing services for private practices, the way that we were doing for the government. But that didn't really work out in the way that we wanted. It was a lot more problems with collection and things within the private sector than you would find in the government sector, you know? And so that became a bit of a challenge for us during the past year. Also, you know, my foray into e-commerce has also been, you know, somewhat very difficult. I still have my Dr-CandaceDrummond.com. That site now hosts my, I guess what you would call my feature course, which is the Mommy Me Time course. Because I feel like in everything that I do, like I say, it's really about finding the best work-life balance. And so, you know, single moms, single working moms, oftentimes, you know, they don't have time for themselves. And then they're fed this line where it's, you know, you don't get time off from your kids. Like, what do you mean? Like, I mean, I'm still human. I'm still a person. I still have, you know, needs and things that are gonna make me whole before I can be a good mother to my child. And so, you know, I try to encourage and remind moms that if you're not good, the kids can't be good. And so it's very important that, yeah, we do take some time to, you know, find some selfish time, find some time that is actually just ours, and work it out with the kids, actually have the buy-in and the encouragement from your children to be like, hey, mom, go take some time and, you know, go, you know, soak in the tub, go get a massage, you know, whatever it is that you do for your mommy me time. I mean, maybe the gun range is your mommy me time. You know, I don't know.
Right. I love it. I love it. I know on our earlier show back in January, I believe it was January 3rd, you said that, you know, a big part was making payroll because, you know, it was large. So you had, you know, it wasn't like, okay, this is all mine, but I have other people too who are dependent on me. But, and yet you still, you know, you did what you did. What do you think was probably the most challenging or most difficult part of making this transition?
Honestly, the most difficult part is probably not professional, it's personal. Professionally, I'm able to maintain, I would say, the same or similar level of contact and communication that I do with my staff or with my virtual assistant, those sorts of things. I have a virtual assistant that lives in the Philippines. We've never met, we've worked together for 4 years, and she and I trust her implicitly. She pretty much handles everything in my company right now, except for payroll. And so, but personally, making friends and adjusting to what is considered normal. I mean, Jamaica, I used to always, when I visited Jamaica, I used to always think it was just so amazing that every time I came, there just happened to be a party, but living here, you realize there really is a party every day, and so that's probably one of the major culture shocks for somebody like myself, where I'm really, I'm actually more of an introvert. I really do like to be home, and I have a routine that I stick with, and Jamaica is just kind of like, you might turn a corner and there just happens to be a party, and then, you're just stuck there for the next 6 hours. And then he's like, well, I guess, today is shot. Let's try again tomorrow.
Wow.
That's, I think, the most difficult transition for me is really, going with the flow or learning to be more flexible, but still maintaining my structure and my standards.
Got you. Well, Dr. Drummond, do you also help people with e-commerce or just basically the financial planning?
So right now, what I mostly help with is the financial planning. However, it depends on if the financial planning includes that type of diversification. If it's something that is recommended, depending on, because like I said, you want to diversify in ways that are going to be complementary to whatever services that you provide. Correct. So, if you're providing right now, therapy services like myself or something along those lines, something that is complementary would be these courses. Like I say, for me, it's the Mommy Me Time, it's my feature course, and I'm going to be coming out with additional ones, but that's going to be more, like I said, the focus of, e-commerce. And so I have a funnel and sales funnel. I've got, ads, all of those types of things that feed into that alternate or diverse line for my own practice. But if it doesn't make sense, if your thing is already already online, it may not need an additional e-commerce platform or something. Right. What it might need is, to bring it more brick and mortar in maybe a pop-up shop, or those sorts of locations that have become a lot more convenient, a lot more readily available, expose those sorts of events, which are a lot more, they're coming back now.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Drummond, how important do you think it is for one to go after their dreams, and is it still possible during these challenging times?
So I'm gonna tell you a little story, right? My company, like I said, was thriving. It was doing very well. 2020 I was supposed to be looking at my first $1 million year. And had it gone and continued to go that way, I wouldn't have stopped it. I would have continued to push it and support that growth. However, my dream, my goal in life has always been to not work. Now, I've never said that I don't want to work. I wanted to create a life in which I didn't have to work hard every day. And so in my mind, I thought that this company that was, had all these locations, doing all this stuff, that, okay, one day it's going to get to the point where I'll be able to step away and it'll be able to run itself. But that was not the direction it was going in. The bigger it got, the more it needed me. You know, the bigger it got, the more the buck stopped with me. You know, the more bucks stopped with me. You know, the more departments, the more issues, the more vendors, the more whatever that became. And so with COVID kind of, you know, tearing all of that away, it actually made room for me to get closer to the life I've always wanted. Gotcha. Now, granted, my, you know, my gross assets are much lower now. My net is much higher because I'm not spending out as much as I was before. You know, like I said, my cost of living is drastically lower. You know, I've lived here for just over a year. I've already been able to buy my first vehicle. You know, I'm planning in the next few months to buy 250 acres in the Philippines. Ooh. You know, because the Philippines and Thailand and Cambodia are slated to be some of the next hotspots for tourism in the next 5 to 10 years. And so I'm buying 250 acres with 200 feet of beachfront and 800 coconut trees because I want to be positioned in a place where even if I don't develop that into the resort villa that it will be one day, that the person who wants that land to develop into the resort villa will have to pay me for it.
Wow. You know what I love? Well, I'm listening to you, and I always speak about something that I call the fire within. And I think that spirit, that it knows what you want to do, and it kind of directs your path, you know, should you let it. I did an interview of a psychotherapist. Her name is Dr. Stem. And I always bring this up, even to my students. She said, well, here we are, we have COVID, and it's almost like the Red Sea has parted. So during that time, are you going to come out the other side the same way you went in? And I know this time is a wonderful opportunity to either reinvent ourselves or to sit back, think, what do I really want? Or to listen to that still small voice and to get the finer things, you know, like you said, well, I was building this business, but the buck stopped with me. I had to be there. And so it just looks like, you know, and I've watched you, and it just seems like you're just so happy right now. And by the way, how is your daughter?
She is awesome. She is like, I mean, we're getting ready to go on vacation. She's been in gymnastics camp. She's on a summer camp. I mean, yeah, she's awesome.
Wonderful. Okay, well, Dr. Drummond, what advice would you have for those who they feel like giving up and they feel like there's no use in continuing to try and to make their dreams a reality? What advice would you have for them?
As long as there's breath, there's time. You know, I mean, that's the first thing. You know, my dad is 70 years old, still, you know, working on starting a trucking company. You know, I mean, I don't think that it's ever too late. And honestly, if, you know, you feel like you're spending too much where you are, like, you know, oh, my bills are too high, I can't afford to do anything else, make them lower. I mean, to me, it's just that simple. Make them lower. You know, move to somewhere that there's a lower cost of living, but maybe a less desirable location. You know, like I said, become a digital nomad, invest. And when I say invest, you know, God isn't making any more land. Buy land.
Come on. Yes.
Like he ain't making no more, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, yeah, like it doesn't matter if there's no one there. Like right now, there are whole sides of the countryside in Italy that are being sold. Go get you a couple hectares. You know, like those are the types of investments that you do right now. Like, you know, and those are the types that you sit on for even 5-10 years, and it'll blow your mind where the world will go in that time, because we're expanding. We're looking for more places to put more people. That's what we're doing. That's what we've been doing since the age of Columbus and before.
Yes.
We're expanding. And so get you some, you know, and like I said, there are lots of other investments, lots of other ways, annuities, trusts, lots of things like that. But even 1 to 5% is a good interest rate. A lot of places that you're going to be looking are going to give you a piece of a percentage, 0.5%. If you can get a full percentage on your money, put it down.
Love it, love it, love it. Well, Dr. Drummond, it has been beautiful. It's been a pleasure. It's been a blessing. And, you know, I always say gratitude with a capital G. To listen to you, to feel that vibe, that frequency, that, I mean, it's just goodness. And so as we get ready to move on, can you leave our viewers with, you know, maybe one tidbit, and also how to get in contact with you should they want to know more about financial planning or investing, or even when it comes to psychology?
Yeah, just wellness. Like I said, I like to talk about is wellness. I don't really talk a lot about, you know, mental illness. I talk about mental wellness. You understand? Because we can always get better. We don't have to have a disorder or an issue or anything like that in order to improve. And when I talk about improving, like I say, if we can get a good work-life balance where we're happy with both our money and our love and our friends and our family, where everything is just in balance and it's just good, that is what we're really looking for. That, I mean, I know that that's the pinnacle right there. It's not, if your money is up here but your family life is down here,
Yeah.
you know, that's still not a happy life. If your family life is up here but your money is down here,
Right.
again, that's still, you know, that's a recipe for divorce in a lot of situations. And so what I want people to understand is that we have to look at all of these pieces of wellness. So it's not just about planning well with your finances. It's not just about, you know, keeping the right gratitude mindset. It's not just about, you know, keeping our health in check. It's not just about having enough fun. You got to do all of them.
Wow. That balance.
Yeah. And to reach me, Facebook is the best way. Dr-Candace Drummond. Yeah, Dr. Drummond, Saidi, all of those come right to me.
Well, everyone, look, if you've been here and you've listened, and if you're just tuning in, my guest today has been Dr. Candace Drummond. And, you know, she has some really good information and some really great energy. She let the fire loose. And for all of you who tuned in, and I'm sure you're going to have questions, hey, put the comments, put the questions, go to her, whatever it is, because you know what? It's about networking. It's about service to the world. It's about helping each other. It's about lifting up. And I love how she said it's about that balance. So
absolutely
wonderful. So as we get ready to move on, as you go about your day, remember to have gratitude with a capital G, and always let that fire loose. Have a gratitude day.